All right, well, welcome back to our second week of Revit, everyone. A couple things to go over. So I wanted to show you guys the assignment that we'll be working on tonight. There's going to be a couple of assignments this week. We are going to start one of them tonight, and then eventually you'll also have some questions. Typically, I post the questions on Thursday. So on Tuesday and Thursday, just to let you guys know, I keep the questions up kind of in the background. So it kind of serves as almost like a dialogue for me, like, okay, don't forget to go over this, this, and this. And some weeks we just can't go over things for whatever reason. And then like last week, there might be a couple extra things. Like we had a couple extra credit points when we had our questions last week. So that's why I don't post them until Thursday. So, but I do like to get the assignments up. And our assignment for this week, there's going to be 2 of them. Remember, in addition to the questions. Am I not projecting yet? Sorry. Did that work? Okay, great. So I'm in student view, so what I see should be what you see. But here's what we'll be going over starting tonight. Let me pull both of these up. So the first thing that we are going to talk about will be downloading a PDF printer. For whatever reason, our lab and the Adobe printer that lives here, we're not getting along. If any of you guys took AutoCAD last semester or have even tried to print to a PDF, what ends up happening is there's a little dialog box that comes up, and there's these little blue bars that let you know how far it gets to printing. And essentially 1 or 2 blue bars pop up and it never finishes. So this is typical in the lab. So we have to download a PDF printer in the lab. And in addition to that, most people don't have a PDF printer at home that supports large scale files. So almost everybody has like a Microsoft printer or like a Save as PDF feature on a Mac, but those aren't built for like 24 by 36s or 34 by 42s, so construction documents. So one of our first assignments here is to download one or both of these PDF printers. They're free printers, and it will allow you to print here in the lab, and it'll also allow you to print at home. So again, you can download both of them here and kind of work with each one of them, see which one you like best. And then also remember to have these at home so that when you're turning in your assignments, they are to scale. So even though they're PDFs, if I were to print them, they'd come off as like a big 24 by 36 or an 11 by 17, 30 by 42. But these are the 2 that we'll be working for. Now, Raquel and even Emily, I know that you guys are coming straight off of AutoCAD, right? And I think you too, Caitlin. Is that right? What PDF printer did you guys install? Oh, no, you didn't need to because there's the DWG to PDF. I don't know why Revit doesn't have a Revit to PDF printer like they do in AutoCAD. So they don't, unfortunately. So, okay, regardless of that, you will have to download one of these 2. And what I'll be looking for is before we leave tonight, we are going to print a sample PDF that you guys will turn in. So it's kind of like last week where I showed you guys how to do a screenshot and you guys uploaded that. Tonight we're going to do a sample print, and that takes a few steps to start, just to let you guys know. So if we don't get to the sample print this evening, then we'll do it on Thursday. But this is just the assignment that's open. Again, you can see it's not actually due until next week. So if you leave tonight and we didn't get to it, don't panic and think, oh my gosh, we didn't get to that. It might have to roll into Wednesday, but these are the points that we're hitting this week. Okay. Now, the other part that we'll start working on is we're going to start doing a layout for what I refer to as the tiny house. And the reason why I love working on this project is that it's really similar to how we start working to a project in the real world. In most classes, I don't necessarily think ours, but in a lot of classes when they teach you Revit, you have a book that they give you and there's this perfect plan that's already done and it tells you exactly what to do. Now, wouldn't it be, I'm going to tell you guys, wouldn't it be amazing in the real world if that's just how it worked? And I'm here to tell you it doesn't. As somebody who has practiced for, 15 years, I have never gone into Revit and said, these are the exact plans, these are my walls, this is the space, let's build it. It's usually chicken scratch, sketches. I have no idea where the walls are. I forget a door. I forget that plumbing doesn't go there. And so there's always this editing going on. And so not to freak you guys out, but we are going to base our class in reality, which is slightly imperfect. And we are going to try our best with the information that we have to make it perfect. I have had mixed responses to this. Some people are like, I don't know, this isn't exact. But I just have to shrug and say, when you first start designing, it's rare that you get it perfect that first time. And you're always editing until you get it perfect. Round one is rarely ever perfect. And that's where we're going to start. And we're just going to keep on refining it. Okay? Does that make sense? The kind of like the book perfect plan versus what we're going to do? Okay. So with this, what we're going to do, I have a link here and then the copy and paste. Depending on how Canvas is feeling, it doesn't use my links all the time, so I like to put in both. But let me go ahead and click on this website. They have pretty good, simple plans for us to work with. So this is called the Casita plan, or the tiny house. I'll refer to this often as the modern casita. And with this, if you scroll through, this floor plan is really hard to read. Caitlin?
Sorry, my internet closed out and now I can't.
Is it on the other side? Okay. Let me go ahead and, Caitlin, I think, was that you or no?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Let me know when you get your stuff back on and I'll start broadcasting again. Got it? Great. So here, if you scroll through the pictures, we actually have a larger view that we can look at. And remember, even though this looks like a pretty good floor plan, it might not be perfect by the time we get it in. This could be a sketch that you just did by hand. So it could be like on grid paper, something you walk through with your client quickly. It could be a sketch that you got off the internet, like we're doing right now. There's several places where this information could come from, but typically right off the bat, we never have anything quite this detailed with like wall thicknesses. Maybe the windows are already in, but you wouldn't necessarily have all these notes in here. So imagine this is just like a really fancy sketch, okay? So we have our fancy sketch. We're about to start a new project. Now, before I start this project with you guys, I want to pause for just a minute. And what I'd like you guys to do is to kind of get together with the people around you. So I'm going to have the three of you guys. And then Valerie, right? Valerie, I'll have you go with them. And then Brooke, is that your name? Okay, Brooke, if you wouldn't mind hopping over there. I want the three of you guys to kind of put your heads together. And before you even get into Revit, I want you to verbally walk through how you'd start a project. So there's there's right and wrong answers here, but hopefully you guys can coach each other, like don't forget this part and let's think about this, okay? So before we even get into this, let's think about how you would approach it. Maybe there's something you forgot that your neighbor will tell you, and then we'll all come back together and start it. Okay, I'm gonna pause for just about, maybe that's my big thing. I don't wanna steal any lab days. Okay, so the past couple classes, I would write stuff on the board. Like this is what I would do. Do you guys feel like I should write those steps on the board again as we share them together? Yeah? Okay, I'm seeing lots of yeses. So we have 3 different groups. And what I'll do is I'll kind of talk to every group to just share one point of it. Okay, so actually whoever speaks first gets to put out the first one. And then whatever you guys want to add, tell me what's next. So I'll keep recording during this part. So Revit project, just like tonight, pretend that you are at home and not at a lab with your instructor kind of over your shoulder. What would you guys think about before you started the project? Valerie? Sorry. Template, okay, good. Oh, you are, okay, good. So you would think about what template, and in this class, what 2 templates do we use?
Architecture or residential.
Good. And do you guys remember, okay, if you wanted one that basically had like nothing in it, bare bones, which one would you pick? Architecture. If you wanted one that had like a whole bunch of sheets already created in it, which one would you use? Okay, good. So it seems like you guys have a pretty good grasp of the difference between those 2 things. Okay, good. So we've opened up our template. for tonight's class, what template would we start with? Residential. One, it says it on Canvas, but it's a residence, so let's start with the residential template, okay? So we've got that off. Who wants to take the second one? Go ahead.
We need to think about the walls, or the properties of the walls.
Good.
The walls made of.
Yeah, so wall types. And what I'll do, if you guys don't mind, I will, as we go through these things that you guys are mentioning, let's just pull it right back to this project right here, okay? Did you guys have a chance to think about these steps in terms of this project in front of us? Okay, good. So wall type wise, what types of information did you guys find out? Let me come here. So there's a little bit of information here under additional information. Do you guys see that right there? The 2x6 construction. So let me just put up here. So this is specific to this project, okay? I'm not making it generic tonight, but we've got wall types, and it says that it's 2x6 construction. Now remember, this is a sketch, and we're just going to use it as what it is, a sketch. So we have an exterior wall, and what is that exterior wall made out of? Yeah, so let's say that it's 2x6 construction. We have, I'm going to say exterior, 2x6 stucco. And just to let you guys know, another word for stucco is ephes. Can't remember what it's called right now. Totally went out of my brain. But if you ever see the word ephes, it means stucco. Okay. And if we look at the plans right here, let me zoom into this one. So it's saying 2x6 construction. And if I'm looking at this wall, this looks like it's kind of like a thicker 2x6 with stucco on it, right? Now, do these interior walls look like they're 2x6? No, there's probably a smaller interior wall type. Do we know how big those are? Nope, we don't. So that's kind of up to us to put in what the interior walls is. So I'm just going to put interior wall. I'm going to just make this X because we don't know what that is yet. There's also, tell me what else there is though, as far as interior wall goes.
Load-bearing wall.
Yeah, it looks like there's either load-bearing or possibly a wet wall. Whatever it is, it's definitely not this interior wall, right? And to me, it looks pretty close to this one right here. So it seems like there's another interior wall that's about 6 inches. I'm going to put about 6 inches. And we'll put structural or wet. Just some notes right there. And this is a really simple plan. I really think that that covers most of it. Don't you guys think? Yep. So I think that that covers our wall types right there, like what types of walls we're working with. Should we go on in this area, or is there something else that you guys have on your list that we should take into consideration too? The different ceiling heights. So kind of while we're in this wall area, you can see here that we've got a 9-foot ceiling in these areas. Did those pop out to you guys when you're taking a look? And then over here in the dining, we've got a 10-foot ceiling. So we've got slightly different ceiling heights throughout, but in general, our highest point is at about 10 feet. So we can at least deduce that we have, let's put our ground level at 0, okay? We've got a max ceiling height of 10 feet, and then we've got a roof somewhere above that, right? So we've got this X structure right here before our roof starts. Do you guys kind of see that I'm just kind of sketching out the elevation right here? Now if I were to start putting in the walls in this house, if I were to do a section, so the footing and foundation would come below, right? Here's our 0, so this is underground. Master's degree right here, people. And this is our ceiling structure. Okay, that's kind of where the X is. This is our 10 feet. And just taking a look at the front of the house, I can tell that these walls come up past the roof. Okay, so that's why I have that wall going up. It's not a traditional house where the roof would kind of come up above it. But can you guys see from these images, it's definitely going up above the roof. So we've got some other things to play with here as well. We don't have all of the information, but then again, when you first start designing a project, you won't have all of the information. It's up to us to fill that in. This is just kind of what we're starting with. Okay, good. So we talked about the wall types. We've talked about our wall elevations. So let me put those in as our levels. So we are going to do main at 0. We're going to do our roof. Let's just do let's do 2 feet of structure. Okay, so I'm going to do roof at 12 feet. Okay, I'm really just sketching over here. It's all over the place. So roof at 12 feet. Everybody with me so far? Okay, and is this information exact, like how they have it on this website? Nope, we're just kind of filling it in as we see correct. Okay, and then so we're creating the levels. We're not going to create a level for the ceilings. We're going to work on those a little bit later. I think that's in 2 or 3 weeks. But for now, we're just doing those main levels. Okay, we won't worry about the ceilings just yet. We'll put those in later. Okay, so we've got this here. And what else would you guys think of while we're in here? So we did our levels. We did our wall types. We have our architectural template, and I think we're good to start the project. The other stuff that we think about will be when we're actually putting in the walls. That's really when that next category of stuff goes in. Like, okay, before I start drawing, this is what I need to set up. So tonight, this is the most awkward thing about being in this classroom, is that I will have to keep this up on one side of my screen and Revit up on one side of my screen, but you guys are just limited to that one thing that we're looking at, okay? So I'm going to try my best to kind of get us started, okay? I'm going to just kind of verbally tell you some of these spaces. I'm going to show you a couple different ways of approaching how to kind of put in these rooms, because we know the room sizes, but we don't know the exact walls. So in the end, some of this might not line up exactly. Again, it's a sketch. We'll try our best. So with that, let's go into Revit, and we are going to open up, we're going to make a new project. And is residential ever going to be in here? No. Not yet. So we're going to go to Browse, Residential, and then Open. And there is something that I want to point out tonight before we get started. So what I want to do with this file is let's all essentially save it in the exact same place. And then in like an hour or 2, we're going to come back and look at it so you can see all the backup files. And then I'll show you how to kind of manage backups. But 2020 changed a little bit. So I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. We'll find out though. So once we open a blank file, let's all go to File and then Save As, Project. And then when you guys are here, if you go to My Network, do you guys see anything pop up here for you? Like, for example, let me do this instead. Do you see how up here where it says Save In at the very top, I can pull a drop down? Do you guys see anything in here with your name on it, or at least your My Page login? What is that drive name? Okay. Jules, what's yours?
Like what the whole name is? It's the same thing, but mine says like my student login and then the RWD.
Okay. What's at the beginning of it? Well, I guess here's my big question. Yeah, does it look like that green icon right here? Yeah. Okay. So, I am thinking, I think it sounds like they have it set up, but if you save there, that saves on our network, which means that if you come back next week and Jules, somebody sitting there, you should be able to come sit here and still have your work, or go in the lab across the hall, or go into the interior design lab. So what I'd like you guys to do in that folder that you guys see, so go into that folder. I don't have that folder, But once you guys are in that folder, make a new folder and call it Tiny House Casita. I will refer to it as both things like it's two different things. It isn't. They're both the modern casita. It's just a tiny house, so Tiny House Casita. And then once we're in there, go ahead and name this project. First, let's start with the year. So let's do, is it 19? Jeez. And let's just do the month, 05. I'm going to do 21. I like naming my files this way because then they're always in order. And then just call it Tiny House or Casita, either one. You can even do Tiny House Casita. And I'll put Nawabi at the end of mine so I know that it's mine. Okay. And then eventually we'll test this out. When we get back to our lab, we'll go back to the same network place and hopefully we'll see our same files. If not, we're going to run back over with the USB or email it to ourselves. Hopefully they get everything working for us sooner than later. So now you can see up here, it changed the file name to be, you know, the Tiny House Casita Nawabi. We've got that now. We started in our first floor. And what are these again? Do you guys remember what these little triangles are? We did for just a moment. We're talking about where to draw. Yep, so these are our elevation markers. So essentially, this is a camera that will be looking at this face of the house. This is a camera that's looking at this elevation of the house. Okay, so that's why when we first open up a file, it's best to draw in here so that our cameras can see where we're drawing. Okay. Now let's go ahead and we went over wall types and levels. Let's go to our levels and set those up. So what view would we set up our levels in? Elevations, yep. So hop into any of your elevations. And we're going to go ahead and go through some of these. Let's do a quick review while we're here. So first floor here is this same first floor. Now, I wouldn't suggest that you guys do this, but if I come and delete this first level, it'll warn me that a whole bunch of other stuff is going to be deleted. And do you see that all of my first floor stuff is gone? Okay, that's part of the power of BIM modeling. Now, along with that, we're going to call this main level, okay? So when we come and I rename it main level here, it's actually going to rename it everywhere else. So here's main level now. Now, do we have a second floor in this project? We don't. So are we okay to delete this? Yep. It's still going to warn us. We're just going to say that's okay. And then all of the second level plans should be gone now. Okay. We can go ahead and leave our foundation in for now. That won't really affect us. What's the last thing that we should do while we're on the screen? Yeah, what should our roof height be set at? Good. So we're going to change this to 12. What happened?
But what if renaming the levels didn't change the project browser name?
So do you still have first level here and main level there? You can, what I would do is I would probably delete the level and put it in again, because once you disconnect them, you can't reconnect them. So yeah, I would. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. We didn't go over how to create new levels, but let me go along with you. So I'm going to delete my main level and just pretend that they're not the same. So that's gone. Okay. And then there's 3 ways of putting in a new level. So we're kind of getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. This is usually an hour into class, but we're going to do it at the beginning. So everybody, why don't you guys do the same thing? Why don't you delete your first level? No, that's okay. Main level, whatever you have. And then we're going to put it back in. Or essentially just add another level. And again, it's all the same way of doing it, but it's just different ways of putting in shortcuts. So the long way of doing it is in architecture. Do you see that there is a level icon? Okay, so architecture, level. When I'm hovering over it, what's the shortcut icon for it? LL. So there's two ways right there. Architecture, level, or LL. Let me draw it up real quick. So to add a level, you come into your elevation and you type in LL. And I always draw from left to right because it starts with it on the left side and then goes to the right. Does that make sense how it drew it? By default, it's putting it in at level 8. And I think it probably will with yours too, just because we all started at with the same template file. So nothing about this is right yet, but we can change it. Okay. Let's actually do it one more way. You guys are gonna think I'm crazy. Take level 8 and delete it for me. It's gonna warn you about all that stuff. Go ahead and say okay. And I'm gonna show you one more way of putting it in. Okay? So the next way is create similar, and we talked about that last week, right? So before I tell you guys how to do it, I want you to try it on your own, and then in about 30 seconds we'll all do it together. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump in with you now. So create similar is like a paintbrush. So first I dip it in what I want to color it with. In this case, it's a level. I type in CS, and now it's recreating whatever it was I clicked on. In this case, it was a level. So again, click on the item, CS, and then you can start drawing it in. Anybody want me to show you that one more time? No? Okay. So now I'm on level 9. And I can just double click in here and I'm going to make this main level and I'm going to send it down to 0. So now main level should be set there. Okay, I don't hear a lot of clicking, so I think you guys have got that. While we're in this, I want to show you guys one other thing. So do you see how foundation and main level are kind of on top of one another? So if you click on a level, it's really hard to see, but do you see this tiny little, it's called a tilde, but in this case it's an elbow. If I click on that, what it does is it drops this one down. It adds an elbow so it doesn't climb on top of this one. And then once you have an elbow, you can come and use these grip points to either move it up or down from where you need it to go. Okay, I'm gonna do a Control Z. I'm gonna show you that one more time. So this time I'm not gonna zoom in, but if you click on it, even here, you really have to be looking for it. Once you hover over it, it says Add Elbow. You click on it and it automatically drops it down. Okay? Every once in a while, once we start adding more and more levels, you might have to add the elbows. Okay? Everybody got that all right? Good. So now we have got our levels. We talked about our wall types. We don't quite have them in yet. So let's come over here into our main level, and we are going to first talk about drawing walls, but tonight we're going to take it one step further. So rather than it being just an exact review of what we've been doing, we are going to talk about making custom wall types tonight. So this part of it will be new. We'll review it again on Thursday, and the hope is that when you guys go home, either tonight or Thursday, and do your homework, you will be able to create all of these new wall types. One thing that you will find is as we're creating our new wall types, whether it's a wall type, a door, or a window, the way that we edit them will essentially all be the same steps. So you'll really start to see that there's a pattern in Revit. And that same pattern will also exist when we start working with like annotation, whether it be dimensions, room labels, anything like that. You'll see a similar pattern happen with those things as well. Okay? So for now, let's go ahead and start putting in our walls. Let's remember, I don't want you guys to get stuck in one view. So do you guys remember what 3 views I want you guys to have open as we work? Good. Yep. 3D. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the north elevation. Okay. And this house west would probably be good too, but we'll just do north for now. And then what is my shortcut to start tiling all these views? WT, good. Window tile. And then remember, if I want my floor plan on the right side, because that's where the most real estate is, I keep clicking into that window, I type in WT, I click into the window again, and I just kind of start circulating around. Okay? Now from here is where we can really start to vary as far as how we are approaching this plan. And actually, I just noticed in my elevation we still have a basement and all this footing here. So let's at least delete the basement level. We can keep the foundation and the footing, but at least delete the basement level for me. Okay, I'm actually going to make this even a little bit bigger. So here, we're going to define some wall types that we'll be building in Revit. So this is going to be my wall type 1. This will be my wall type 2, and this will be my wall type 3. And we're going to define each one of those because remember, in BIM modeling, it doesn't have to be a generic wall. We can start with the generic wall and then add information later, but we have most of that information now, so it doesn't have to be generic. We can actually start with a pretty detailed wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out by typing in WA, and I'm going to walk through the whole process, and then I can walk through it again with you guys, okay? If you feel comfortable walking through the first time, you may, but just know that either way I'll be doing it twice. So again, my shortcut for wall is WA, and before I even start drawing, I can come down here and look for different types of walls. So with my walls, I have brick, I have shingles, and wood siding. So are any of those what I'm looking for? No, not quite. I'm going to grab the brick on wood stud, and I'm going to click on Edit Type, okay? Now, the first rule of creating custom anything in Revit is that we always want to duplicate. And the reason why we want to duplicate is we never want to override a system standard. Because right now, if I were to take the brick wall and then edit it, every other project with the brick wall would be edited too, okay? So I'm going to duplicate it, and when I duplicate it, I can rename it whatever I want. So here, I'm going to call it wall W1 for wall 1, okay? And this one is going to be exterior, EFIS, and that's it. I don't have to put anything else. I just know that it's an exterior wall, and then EFIS or stucco is going to go on top of it. You can put stucco if you're more comfortable with that. Okay? It is an acronym. Let me look it up real quick. So it stands for, what is it?
Exterior finish insulation system.
Thank you. There you go. It's been so long since I've had to think about it. I'm like, I don't know what that is anymore. But for me, I don't know where stucco came from. So I'm like, stucco? EFIS? And here's what I'm going to do. So these are the 2 main menus that we'll be in once we hit Edit Type. So do you see where it says Structure right here? Okay, if I click Edit there, it takes me into this new menu that looks really intimidating the first time you look at it, right? There's just all this stuff right here. But really what we're looking at, so I click the arrow on the preview button, it's showing you how your wall is being built. And up here, do you see how it says exterior side? And then down here it says interior side. So on the exterior side, I have a finish layer, and that's common brick, and it's 3 5/8 of an inch. I don't want that, or at least I don't want brick, but I want stucco. So if I come here, these are actually just rendered materials. So I'm gonna look up EFIS. I think I'm spelling it wrong. Let me look up stucco. Whoa. Okay, we'll have to.
The second we saw was
Was it? I don't think it's coming up. I don't think it likes me. No. So this is so strange. In the residential mode, it doesn't have EFIS, but I know that in the just architectural side, or like the architectural template, it has a standard wall that has an EFIS finish on it. So what I can do for now is I can actually, I think there's a generic one in here. It's bringing up all of the generic stuff. Let's make a decision, and I am just going to do, I'm gonna look up the word default. That's probably better. I will do default wall for now, and then we will change that because this is essentially just defining how that will be rendered when we do it in 3D. Okay, we can pull in more information later. But what I do want to know is I know that EFIS isn't 3 5/8 inch thick. It's going to be much thinner than that. So for now, I'm going to do 0 because it's 0 feet, and then 1.5 for 1.5 inches thick. Okay, and then while you guys start working, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat, go into my architecture menu and steal the EFIS properties and then bring it in here. But for now, it's 1.5 inches. I don't need a 1 inch air gap. Do you see that the next thing is a 1 inch air gap? So if I don't want that, I select the line. This is really similar to like an Excel spreadsheet. And do you see the delete button? Okay, I can delete that. I do want my plywood layer. That's a 1/2 inch. This is right, softwood lumber, because we said it was 6-inch wood studs. Okay, so, and 6-inch wood studs are nominal. So whenever you see 2 by 6, it's actually 1.5 by 5.5, so it's kind of cheating there. These are just fine. And then essentially what I get on the inside is I get a 1/2 inch of drywall. So that part works for me, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and click on OK, and I have a new wall type. So what I'm going to do now is hit cancel, and we're going to do that whole thing together. Okay? Any questions before we start? No? Okay. What is our shortcut to go into the wall menu? WA. Good. And then from here, you guys start out on generic 8-inch, right? Is that where it starts out by default? 6-inch? Okay. I couldn't remember where it started. But where do we want to go this time? Yeah, let's grab any sort of exterior wall to start with. And if we want to make changes to this, make it custom, what should we click on? Good. Edit type. And then from here, before we do anything, what's the first thing we need to do? Okay. Why do we want to duplicate it?
So we don't change the original?
Yep. Don't change any of the system defaults. Okay. So always duplicate it. And again, we're going to call this W1 exterior, and you can call it EFIS or stucco. Yeah.
Sorry, I cannot get my walls up. I'm typing WA.
So let's take a look at your screen. Let's make sure you're not stuck somewhere else. Are you in your floor plan? So click in there. Let's go back. So come over to your side, and do you see it looks like a little tic tac? Come down. Yep. Click on right next to the tic tac. Keep clicking that until it looks like my screen again. I think one more. There you go. So type in WA. You might just be having a technical glitch. I'm going to pause the lecture for just a minute. All right. So again, now that we're here, so Valerie, we selected the basic wall brick on wood stud. And then did you do duplicate? Let me get back out real quick. So you'll go to, sorry, edit type. Got it? And then duplicate. And I'm going to name this W1 exterior ephes. So now we aren't going to override the brick. Is it over there? Oh, okay. Let me bring you back. There you go. Yeah. So now we still have the preview of our wall, but we want to make some changes. So where do I go to make those changes? Yep, under structure. So we're going to edit the structure. And then if you haven't yet, I always like to have the preview open so you can kind of see again from exterior to interior. Do you guys see that? And hang out for just one moment. I'm going to hit OK and then OK. While you guys have yours open, I'm going to open a new architecture project, and we are going to borrow the ephes properties of this project. Just click edit type. Okay. So here, 3-inch ephes. No, we're not. We're ignoring that. Okay, and then this one, exterior insulation. I'm going to see if I can copy this so I can send it to you guys too. The ephes exterior insulation. Okay, so now we will just continue with where we were. All right, so here, back in our structure, I'm going to pull up my parameters. So first it says brick common, and this isn't brick, right? So we're going to click in here, and once we click on the name, do you guys see these 3 little dots that pop up? We want to click on those 3 little dots, and this will list essentially all of the materials that are available to us, okay? If we want, we can even come down here. Do you guys see where there's this little plus sign? We can create a new material. And this one is now default new material. And when you right click on it, you can rename it. Everybody still with me? Okay. Now with this one, I am just going to rename this ephes. I can't remember. Let me take a look. It's usually always done for me. It's EIFS. So I had it right the first time. Okay. And we're just going to keep this generic. We're just going to name it ephes, and then maybe the only thing that will change, let me come over here. On the cut pattern, do you guys see under graphics where it says cut pattern right here? That means that when you're looking at it on the floor plan, do you see how like this is dashed right here? Let's make our cut pattern a crosshatch. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, when I hit the little plus guy down there,
Yeah.
it doesn't do anything.
So it may not seem like it does, but there's actually one called default new material that it's making for you. So when you pull down, so do you see the little plus sign? When you pull down, does it say create or duplicate? Is it working now? Okay, cool. Yeah. So again, I right clicked after I did that and I renamed it ephes. And then foreground, I changed it to crosshatch. Okay. And then when you click OK, it should look something like this out here. And remember, I'm going to make this a little bit thinner. I only want it to be 1.5 inches. And I will just do a 1/2 inch air gap. And then everything else I will leave the same. So I'll keep my screen up so you guys can duplicate those. Everybody got that all right? Okay, so if we've got that, let's go ahead and click on OK. And we've got our wall. Now before we go to the next part of this, I'm going to just pause right here for a minute. So when we worked on this the last couple classes, it was like, just jump in and go, 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 right? This obviously took a little bit longer because you put a little bit more thought into it. In the other classes, it was generic. So Revit is wonderful, but it does take a lot of thought on the front end, you know, and whether you leave it generic now, eventually it is better to come back and fill in all of that information. But again, I will just keep saying, I think you get a lot of fruits for your labor. So it is a lot of work up front, but now we have our actual wall type set up. So that's our wall type 1 that's set and ready to go. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to pause the lecture one more time. And I'm going to maybe just have you guys create wall type 2 and wall type 3. And I'll kind of write generic descriptions on the board. And actually, I won't even pause. We'll just keep doing it together because since we are in the architecture template, if we look here, we have a 4.5 inch partition, which might be perfect for which wall type? If you guys, which one would it be? Would it be 2 or 3? Yeah, 3. So let's click on interior 4.5 inch partition, and let's go to edit type. And again, just like we did before, I want to click on duplicate and call this W3 interior. Now, can you guys tell me how thick the stud or how wide the stud on this particular wall is? What was that? I'm not sure. Do you guys know how you would check? Good. Yeah, I want you guys to hop into that menu and check for me. So under structure, go ahead and hit edit. So now you guys can tell me, what size of a stud is it? Yep, it's a 2x4 with a 1/2 inch of drywall on each side. Right here. So softwood lumber, 3.5. That would be considered a 2x4 wall. Okay, so that looks right to me for the wall type 3. So we can go ahead and click on OK for that. So now we've gotten 2 out of our 3 wall types done. Now for our third wall type, what we could probably do is just duplicate W3 and make it a 2x6, right? Does that sound right to you guys? Because looking here on our list, interior wall, about 2x6. We don't know if it's a structural wall or a wet wall, but it's definitely a thicker wall. So I'm going to stand back for a minute. I'm going to let you guys duplicate it, rename it. And really the only thing that you guys are changing is from the 2x4, that's 3.5. You're going to change it to a 2x6, which is 5.5. 5.5, 5.5. Not all, you actually have to look it up. So if you look up like lumber, so if it's wood, it's a 1/2 inch smaller, but metal is the exact size it's supposed to be. So
But if it is lumber, then it's safe
yeah.
to say, like,
Yeah, it's a good rule of thumb. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and catch up with you guys. So I'm on W3 interior. So I'm going to have you guys walk me through it. Caitlin, I'm going to start with you and kind of move forward and then around. Daishina, I'm going to try not to start with you every class. So Caitlin, don't pretend you're me. You are just walking me through it. So where would you start? Good. And then from here, Raquel, where would you go?
I would go to duplicate.
Okay. And then Brooke?
Rename it.
Mm-hmm. So what would you rename it? Sorry.
Oh,
To?
W2.
Yep.
Interior.
Uh-huh. And I'm going to put wet or structural. That's a really long wall name, but whatever. We'll know why. Okay, and then Jules, I'm going to come to you.
I'm gonna go to edit under structure.
Okay. And then after that, Valerie?
On the structure, I can take 4.5.
Okay, and then so if I do 4.5 like that, is that right? Emily, why don't you help me out here?
Is it 5? 5.5 it is.
Okay, so if it's 5.5, if I do 5.5, did I do it right?
But no.
Okay. So how would...
0. Yeah.
Good. 0, 5.5. I do this all the time while I'm drafting, so I just wanted to show you guys. Good. And then once I'm done, I can click OK. That looks good. And we're good here. So we just got a lot of things done up front. We did all of our levels. We created all 3 of our wall types. And now it's really just a matter of coming through and laying it out in Revit. So since we have this base plan right here, which wall do you guys want to start sketching with? Probably the exterior wall type. And then now we have a whole other slew of rules that we need to think about before we start drawing, especially since we're just getting started out. So let me swing back around. So I feel really bad. I know that your name is Felicia, Daishina. I forgot your name. Ashley, I'm so sorry. So Ashley, before we start drawing our exterior wall, will you tell me a few other things we need to remember to do before we start drawing? Or at least one other thing? But I don't think I told you guys this, so Ashley, I'm going to tell you. I hate being put on the spot, and so sometimes even when I know an answer, it's just not going to come up. You can pass at any time without me being like, oh, you didn't know. So if you ever want to pass, you can. But do you know, before you start drawing or before I start drawing, can you think of some other things that we need to set up here? Yeah, so we want to set our level, right? So if we are drawing an exterior wall, where should it go up to? Yeah, we're going to take this up to the roof level so that way, if we decide that 12 feet is too high or too low, or our client wants to add a second level, when we take that roof up or down, it moves with it. Okay? Now, Felicia, what's another thing that we should set here? Yeah, so our location line by default is set to wall center line, which means that if you were to start clicking in Revit, it would come down the center of the wall. Now, looking at this floor plan that was given to us, did it give us the centers? No, it gave us finish faces. So we'll do finish face interior again. And then from here, we can start drawing something. And this is not going to be like drawing what you're used to drawing, where you can just go around the whole thing. Because if we look at this plan right here, it's pretty chopped up, right? We've got a 12.3 by 13.6, and then we have an interior wall, and then another interior wall, and then we keep going. But we can at least feel confident that we can draw, you know, this room that's 12 feet 3 by 12.3 by 16.3. Got it? So that's what we'll start with. One other thing that I wanted to point out to you guys too before you start drawing is by default, our detail level is set to coarse. And the reason why it's important to change that to at least medium or fine is so you can see what side the brick or ephes is going on. It gives you more detail. So I would say at a minimum, the first time you start drawing, again, change your detail to medium so you can see what side your walls are going on. All right, we are finally ready to draw 1 hour and 15 minutes later.
Sorry.
Deshina?
So what if it's not changing it from coarse? I think maybe it's just a glitch. If I change it to medium, but it's still showing really thick lines.
Really thick lines?
It's showing like it was coarse still.
Just solid, no detail. You might have to click off of it and let it think for a minute. I'm sure it's just a graphic thing, but in a minute it should catch up with you. So I'm going to do wall. I've got my wall 1 exterior ephes, and this is the part where I have to cheat and put my screen over here. But I'm going to come up 12 feet 3 inches, and then I'm going to go over 16 feet 3 inches.
It's always going to read that way, like how we can expect the dimensions to read.
What do you mean?
Like, well, because my initial thought was to do 12 foot 3 across.
And I am totally backwards now that I have it down there. Yeah, you're totally. So I should have gone up 16.3. Sorry, guys. And then over 12.3. Sorry, I'm thinking about too many things at once. And I'm actually going to come back down here and add this wall too. This wall will eventually get longer, right? It doesn't end there, it gets longer, but I can at least start it. Okay. And now what I can do, I can even start putting in some interior walls and then filling in this information, right? Because I can start putting in my wall type 1 here. And what are the dimensions of my bath? Our bath. Yep, so we've got 5 by 9.5. So I'm going to keep filling that in. So if you guys take a look at my screen, I'm going to go put in, under architecture, I'm going to do another wall. I'm going to pop it in right at that corner. This is just a regular interior wall. And then this one again comes down 9 feet 6. So this one I'm just going to do 9 space 6. Oops, and I put it in incorrectly. I was on center line. Okay, and then this next one I'm going to put in at 5 feet, and then I should be able, what I'm going to do is just come up, and I'll show you real quick. When I put in this last wall, it kind of snaps to where the other wall finished. And what you can do here, there are a couple options. Do you guys remember the shortcut to kind of bring two things together? It's not the fillet command. It's TR. So you click on the two things you want to connect. So TR, and it pulls it up. Let me show you one other way. And I'm going to wait just a minute so we can do them together. But TR is one. The other thing you can do, you can just grab on a wall and you'll see this blue dot, not this blue dot on the dimension, but this one. When you hover over it, it'll say drag wall end, and you should actually be able to just click and drag it over to the next wall.
Is that W2 for the wall, or is that W3?
This one right here, this is a W1, and this one's a W1. Or sorry, no, I'm not paying attention, sorry. W3, W3. And then this one right here should be the thicker one. Okay, now with this one, I'm gonna wait till you guys get there, but for mine, how can I go back and change it after I put it in? Yeah. Yep, so I can just come drag it here and change it to, actually before I do, I'm going to throw down some dimensions. Okay, so I didn't get this exact. Let me change it to be exact to that 5 feet. Okay.
What's the dimensions of the bathroom? Sorry, I just didn't get that.
What I have here, so the 9.6 by 5.0. But since I did the finished face interior, when I change it, it should stay. Oh, it did the finished interior on the other side. But now I can, if I wanted to fix this dimension, what would I need to click on to make this room 5 feet wide? What I need to click on? Yep, click on what you want to move. So if you were in that room, think about you'd have to physically push that wall. That's kind of what you have to do. Grab that wall and then change the dimensions. I'm going to show you guys one other thing that you can do as you're sketching. So this will be for the kitchen. See how my kitchen is 12 feet wide? Okay, and then 7.7. So what I'm going to do now, what is a line that I can draw for reference? Do you guys remember what those were called? Reference plane. Yep, reference plane. So RP, and I'm going to throw a reference plane down. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to measure 12 feet away. Okay, now I know where my next wall is going to go. So I can grab this wall and take it out to the 12-foot line. And I also have an exterior wall here. So I can, here's one thing that's great about Create Similar. Emily, I'll be right with ya. I can do Create Similar, start here and pull down. And I have some more dimensions I have to figure out here, but that will help me start with my kitchen. So you can use reference planes to help you too. Emily, what was your question?
So I'm still all the way in the bedroom.
Okay.
What dimensioning is being, so I just want the outside of the wall to go further away. How do I do that? Like to make the outside wall longer?
You want to make it longer? Okay, so there's a couple ways that you can do it. One of the examples was what I just kind of did right here for the reference plane. So let's pretend that I am still back here in the bedroom. Okay, so if your wall is somewhere here, you have this wall right here, right? Do you just have like kind of like a stub of a wall like this?
Well, I have like almost a square, but I don't have the addition to the bathroom.
This wall right here then?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to make this longer so it gets to the bathroom? Is that right?
No, I want it to go further out like yours is.
Okay, so just this part right here. So there's two ways of doing that. You can do the TR command and click on what you want to keep. So TR, and then essentially you can...
So if I don't have that wall yet though, should I put that wall up before I...
I can show you the second way, and then you don't have to do it the TR way. The other way is you click on a wall, and do you see this little blue dot that comes up, and when you hover over it, it says drag wall end? Okay, you can click on that and essentially drag it, you hold and click, wherever you need it to go. All right? But what I wanted to point out, I'm going to stop going through each one of the rooms. I've shown you guys kind of a couple different ways. So dimensioning is really important when you go through here. So there's my 12.3, there's my 16.3. So you can put in your dimensions, and then you can also use reference planes as you move along to kind of fill in that information. So what I'm going to is that working in Revit the first few times, it's probably different than any way you've sketched before, or even thought about sketching a space. So I get how it's a little bit weird because it's not necessarily going in the order like drawing your entire exterior wall. But really, in this case, we just didn't have all of the information so that we could get like an overall length and an overall width. That's why we're kind of piecing it together. So I'm going to kind of pick up where I started. Now again, most of you guys are already done, but I'm going to keep going, and as I go, I'll show you guys a couple more shortcuts similar to TR, just to see if it helps you. But I stopped kind of on my kitchen. So for my kitchen, I'm going to use a reference plane. So I threw a reference plane down, and I'm going to dimension from here to here. Jules, weren't you supposed to be an hour late today?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're not. Awesome.
Nature of my job, I guess.
So with this one right here, because it's not a wall, I can't do a TR. But what I can do is click on it and use the drag point and just bring it right up to the reference plane. And then it's also telling me, I'm going to put down a reference plane here, that my kitchen is 7 feet 7. I was pretty close on that one. Now taking a look at this sketch right here versus what mine looks like, I think it's safe to assume that the 7 feet 7 probably only comes to this counter. I don't think that the 7 feet 7 is all the way out here. So in a nutshell, I don't think this dimension is right. So I can leave that for now and essentially go backwards, because I've got this point, or I can get this point, and then I can put in the 17.6 by 18.11, right? Let me do it that way. So coming back over here, I'm going to show you guys another command. We went over align last week, right? Okay, I'm going to use align again. So think about that paintbrush. First, you want to click on where you want to go, right? That color, and then the second part. So if I do align, and I'm trying to get this wall over here, where should I click first? Think about it like a paintbrush. Should I click A or B? So first click on where you want to go. I'm glad that you tried. So I first want to click here. This is where I want to go. And then I'm going to extend this out to it. And again, the reason why I did that is looking at this plan, these two walls end up aligning. Okay? And then from here, I can draw another stucco line, stucco wall coming down, and then somewhere in here fitting in that 17.6 by 18.11. So I'm going to pull that back over. What is a shortcut for me to start drawing this wall type? Yeah, I can click on this wall, type in CS, and I'm going to grab this corner, and for this one, it's being a stinker, I want to draw it the opposite way. I should know how. It flips it to the other side. Is that where I want it to go? Yeah, that'll work, sorry. Is that still aligned? Yes, sorry, I had to look at my drawing there for a minute. And again, right now I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I know that it's gonna go somewhere over here. Here's my 12 feet. Do you see how I found my 12 feet in the kitchen? It doesn't quite go there, it goes a little bit further. Let me show you. Let me pull this back over. So there was my, whoops. There was my 12-foot point, and I go a little bit further. Do you guys see how far further I go? You see that 4'10" by 6'10" I've got? So that 4'10", I'm going to assume is kind of this outside of the wall. So I can use another reference plane here. Do you guys see how that dimension can help me? So I'm going to come back over here. So after my 12 feet, I'm going to draw, create similar, one more wall. Okay. And I'm going to do another reference plane. 4 feet 10 out. And I want to drag this guy all the way down here because I'm pretty sure this is where the next wall is going to go. And I'm actually going to have to align it the other way. So do you guys see that when I drew it, I had to draw it on this side of it? But if I look at my plan, do you see how it's on the opposite side? So I'm going to use align again. So AL, I want to go here, and I'm going to hit tab to find the other faces to go there. So slowly but surely I'm getting there. Let's see how close this dimension came. So this is 1610, and my great room is supposed to be 17.6 by 18.11. So not quite there. Now I'm going to try putting in the 18 feet 11 and see how that goes. So if I do a dimension from here, so again, this is the 7 feet 7, and I am going to make this one 18 feet 11. So I brought it in just a little bit. Okay. And now what we all can do you guys see this little line right here, this dash line? That usually indicates that there's a wall opening. So what I can do here is I can actually take this wall and extend it all the way down, and then eventually we'll put a wall opening in here. Okay. This area right here, I'm going to need your help on. Do we have a dimension for this right here? Does that look to be about 3 feet? If this is a doorway, do we want to guess that this is about 3 feet, and then we'll draw the rest of it in? Okay. So let's do that. So again, I can just drag this out, totally eyeballing it again, and I can say this is 3 feet. And even with the hallway, I'm just going to kind of guess how big it is, and then maybe I'll just do a 3-foot hallway, and then whatever's left over goes into the laundry area. So let's see what that gives me in here. That wasn't supposed to work out so well, but I'll take it. That's funny. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through and just put in some more dimensions so that we can kind of compare like where everybody is. Right now my big compromise is this 6 feet 10 right here. I'm going to take that out to the 17 feet 6 that they want, which is interesting because it flips the wall almost exactly to the other side of where it's supposed to be. Do you guys see that? So I'll take it. And then we can decide on this 1811 later. But let me go ahead and finish up the rest of it. We have like a little stub wall over here, and then our entry. The entry wall, I'm going to cheat a little bit and make it stucco too. Right now it's not being shown as stucco.
What was your command that you did to make your lines thinner?
TL, thin line, thick line.
Oh, that's not bad.
I can't work with it unless it's thin line, thick line. Okay. Do you guys see any other, so I'm going to trim this, and I think maybe this is the last one that we need, yeah. So I'm going to show you guys one more way of how reference planes can help. I'm going to throw a random reference plane all the way down here. I'm going to measure out 3 feet. Oops, sorry. So click on the reference plane, change that to 3 feet, and then I can drag these over. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to close my other views for just a minute. I'll pause the lecture, and I'm just going to leave this. I would do, if you're trying to get this wall to 2 feet, I would type in DI, and I would measure from here to here. So right now I'm at 3.8. I'll hit escape. Where are you at right now, just so I know? You put it on 2 feet?
It showed that it was on 2 feet before, but it didn't show it.
Oh, so your wall's perfect then?
Yeah, but
cool.
That's, yeah, it's fine.
Well, let's say, so go ahead, your wall's 2 feet, right? Click on your wall, and then these little dimensions should pop up. Is there a little 2 feet dimension right here?
Yeah, but there wasn't before. It was like 2 feet, 4 inches.
Okay.
Last time.
All right.
And then when I put it on for the dimensions, it said 2 feet.
Okay.
Was it your reference plane and you like tried to change it and kept
Maybe.
Because mine was doing that where it was like I was trying to change the dimension of my reference plane to like the 7'7"
It was
for the
going like
kitchen.
4 inches.
Yeah, and it kept going like 7'2" or something, and I'm like,
Okay.
I'm changing it,
That's
why isn't it doing it?
Yeah.
I just deleted it and redrew my reference
Okay.
plane and then redrew a dimension.
Okay.
And it was fine.
Okay. All right. So, by the sounds of it, I don't hear as many clicks as I did before. Does everybody have their floor plan like 98% where we have it right here? Raise your hand if you don't. Okay. Ashley? Yeah. So you can change it, but you'll still have to go back and change a lot of your dimensions just because that wall was thicker. So for example here, see how this is a thicker wall? Let's say that I meant this to be the thinner wall. I can come down and change its properties to be the W1 or the W3, but you would still have to go through and update your dimensions. Okay? Okay, I'm going to keep mine there. So what I'd like to do now is I want to switch gears and talk about printing a little bit. So even if you're not done with your plan, go ahead and just stop where you are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the lecture again, and I would like you guys to come and download both of these 2 printers here, the Cute PDF and the PDF Architect. And it won't do a lot except for that by the time you're done, when we go to File, Print, it will show up as one of the printers. So for example, right now on mine, I have Adobe PDF, OneNote, and Snagit, but I don't have those printers either. So I'm going to have to download them as well. So I'll cancel out of here and pause. Let me keep this running for just a minute. It's a totally legit printer. It doesn't look like it, but you have to click on this free download over here on the right. I don't think it's very apparent. And the reason why I'm having you guys download both is that some people just end up liking one more than the other. So I want you to try both and see what works for you. So after you've completed the download process, if you want to make sure that the download worked, if you go back to File, Print, and look at your printer menu, you guys will see now I have PDF Architect 7 and Cute PDF. So that's how you know it worked. It doesn't necessarily open up a new program or anything, but that's what you'll see. Okay? So if you guys want to make a note, if you want to watch this again later at home, at an hour and 20 minutes in is when we start talking about printing. And in fact, maybe what I'll do is I will stop our lecture